Level 0 marks the point where radiation exists at its lowest natural presence. In our world, there is no such thing as true zero, so this is as close to an absence as we can get. Radiation is still present in open, wild areas that are far from factories, heavy machinery, and crowded cities. There are small amounts of radioactive stuff in the rocks below our feet. The sun and other stars far away send particles into the atmosphere. The body itself is naturally radioactive because it has elements like potassium-40 in it. Background radiation is the name for this steady, low amount of exposure. It is the constant, unseen baseline that all living things on Earth have to deal with. It usually reads between 0.1 and 0.2 microsieverts per hour. This is way below any level of biological worry and can only be found with very sensitive tools. It doesn't hurt anyone, cause any signs, or need any protection. This is just a part of living on Earth. Level 1 is a little more dangerous than Level 0, but it is still completely safe. In this case, the radiation is still within the normal range of what we see every day. Small measurable doses can be gotten from foods like bananas, drinking water with trace minerals, and going through brick or stone buildings. The main reason is potassium-40, an isotope that is found naturally in many foods. The human body is built to handle it without getting hurt. About 0.1 microsieverts could be sent by a single banana. There would be no radiation risk, even if you ate 100 bananas all at once. Other biological factors would become a problem long before radiation did. The body doesn't react to this amount, and there is no health risk. Level 2 is still safe, but it's now in a range where it's important to measure doses, especially in sensitive areas. This could happen during business flights at high altitudes, where cosmic radiation levels are higher, or near certain types of rock, like volcanic deposits or phosphate ores. At this level, one event could have 5 to 10 microsieverts, which is less than one dental X-ray. Even if they happen for a long time, these doses are still considered low-level contact and don't pose any real health risks. They are, however, tracked in scientific and occupational monitoring to make sure that cumulative exposures stay well below what is considered safe. Level 3 is the level of radiation exposure that is high enough that personal safety equipment needs to be used at work. In some diagnostic medical procedures, like a CT scan, this range is used. These procedures can give a few millisieverts, which is thousands of times higher than background, but still safe in small controlled doses that don't happen very often. At this amount of radiation, it's not harmful right away, but repeated or long-term exposures can build up. Over time, combined doses may get close to levels that have biological effects that can be measured. Because of this, people who work in certain areas wear dosimeters to make sure their total annual exposure stays well below the limits set by the government. At the 4th level, the boundary between safe and unsafe experiences starts to become more blurry. It is possible for exposures in the range of tens of millisieverts, which are still not even close to being deadly, to begin to have modest biological consequences over lengthy periods of time. It is possible that a single full-body PET scan may reach this level without inflicting any harm. But a constant presence in such an environment without any protection could eventually lead to quantifiable cell damage. At this point, the processes that are responsible for DNA repair in the body are actively engaged. there is a possibility that there may be no obvious symptoms. Nonetheless, there is a possibility that microscopic DNA strand breakage or modest reductions in the number of white blood cells will occur. By imposing time limitations, insulating and implementing specialized processes, these settings are often only accessible to individuals who have received proper training. Level 5 is the first level where radiation can have short-term effects on health that can be seen. Doses between 100 and 500 millisieverts can make some people very sick, causing them to feel tired, sick, and have headaches that won't go away. People who worked on the edges of past nuclear accidents, like Chernobyl and Fukushima, were found to be at this level. Even though most people survive, there is a small but real rise in the risk of getting cancer in the long run. In medical and industrial settings, rules tightly limit the amount of time that can be spent at these levels, using shielding and protective gear to reduce exposure. At level 6, people start to get very sick from radiation. Doses of 0.5 to 1 sievert that last for a short time can hurt cells that divide quickly in the bone marrow, the digestive tract, and the immune system. Within 24 hours of contact, symptoms like feeling sick, throwing up, and being tired may show up. Even though people often survive with quick medical care, their body's defenses are weakened. There are fewer white blood cells, mending takes longer, and the body is more likely to get infections. These amounts were found in some of the first people to arrive at Chernobyl, before it was clear how bad the disaster really was. Level 7 means there is a serious health emergency. If you are exposed to 1 to 2 sieverts without care, up to half of the people who are exposed will die. The effect spread throughout the body. Within hours, vomiting starts, followed by severe diarrhea, a weak immune system, and frequent internal bleeding. Records from Chernobyl show that many firemen and engineers in this dose range died within weeks, even after receiving intensive care. With modern medical care, it is possible to survive, but the risk is high and the recovery time is long. Level 8 doses range from 3 to 6 sieverts, and even with aggressive care, survival is not likely at this point. This amount makes it impossible for the body to grow back important tissues. Rapidly, the bone marrow fails, the lining of the intestines falls away, and the person becomes severely dehydrated. Cognitive problems and feeling lost are frequent, and in the worst cases they can lead to unconsciousness. The damage is not from the heat, but from molecules breaking down inside cells. People who were exposed to radiation in this range were often killed within days to weeks after the world's worst nuclear accidents. Level 9. If you get more than 10 sieverts, your brain will almost immediately stop working. Within minutes, the person starts to feel very sick and confused. Within hours, they start having seizures and lose consciousness. Most people die within a day, not from an illness or bleeding, but because their central nervous system stops working. Some workers in the most dangerous areas of Chernobyl were exposed in this way, and they died within seconds of touching the uncovered reactor core. Level 10 means doses above 20 sieverts, which are only possible in the center of a nuclear explosion or in the active, unprotected core of a high-power reactor. At this point, living things are being killed faster than the body can feel pain. Proteins break apart, DNA is immediately shredded, and nerve tissue stops working. No person could survive even a few seconds of that kind of exposure. Simulators and readings taken from afar are the only ways that this level is studied, because direct experiments are not possible. all amounts of radiation are a normal part of our world. It's in the ground, the air, our food, and even our bodies. When it's not very high, it's safe. At higher levels, it turns into a danger that needs to be treated with respect, and safety measures must be strictly followed. It's not about being afraid to understand these levels. It's about being clear, ready, and aware that when it comes to radiation, safety rests on knowing how to control it and respecting its power.